So, I could start off with something akin to my D2 video, where it's something from the reveal and I say something along the lines of, yeah, insert positive thing about game here, but I would rather start off by saying how much I absolutely adore Anthem, just based on the demo of the stuff that I've played. Why? Well, just as the title says, it's the game that I've always wanted. I loved it so much that I could barely wait for the actual release of the game. However, that isn't going to be happening for another couple of weeks, but, you know, since I intended on making this earlier than I actually ended up doing it, the game actually releases tomorrow, but even still, it makes me sad. What about it did I enjoy so much? It was the freedom that the game gave me. The ability to fly basically anywhere with the only limitations being the world height and the overheat meter was a sensation I had never had before. You know those nights when you're just like, man, I could really go for a pizza right now, but you're on a diet or something, or you're tight on money, and that pizza is just out of your reach? That's how I felt until I first got my hands on Anthem. And that demo for me was like I took 2 slices of the pizza, and EA ripped the rest of it away from me and said, we're saving this for the next couple of weeks. And while I was upset that I won't have it for a while, I'm looking forward to its release with utter anticipation. The game is absolutely gorgeous too. You can tell that BioWare has fully adjusted to the Frostbite engine in this game, taking advantage of the dynamic weather and lighting systems that the engine offers. Mass Effect Andromeda of course had its own can of problems, and I wasn't really a player of that series, and that game was my first exposure to Mass Effect, but at least through playing it. But if there's something that I can say that is immediately noticeable, at least from what I was exposed to in this game and Mass Effect, it's the dialogue. It goes to show that you don't need everyone to be so serious all the time, and that the characters you speak with in-game feel distinctly human. There's a lot that I love when it comes to the dialogue in the Stronghold that we had access to, and I'll get more in depth into that stuff later, but for now, the writing. One of the best ways that our player character is, well, characterized is that they learn on the go and don't show up to mission briefings. This is built off of later in the game when we say, next time I expect giant bugs to be in the mission briefing. Then another character, I think Owen was his name, replies, you have to show up for that to help. I laughed when I heard that the first time, and it made me smile during all the other times that I heard it. So, just because humanity, or whatever they're called in this game, is backed into a corner, they're not afraid to crack jokes and have fun, which is something that I think is, well, refreshing. So, the things that I had actually done in the game were free play and the Stronghold. That's all that I really wanted to do, and I would leave the story for me to play when the game is fully released. The only javelins that I were able to play were the Colossus and the Ranger, so I don't know the information on the Interceptor or the Storm. So if you're looking for details on those guys, I'm sorry, but you'll have to look elsewhere. Free play is exactly what it says. It's the mode in which you'll get to fly around, kill bad guys, loot dungeons, and complete world events. Don't expect this to be your typical Destiny Patrol mode either, because there's a wider variety of things that you can do here. Yes, there are some areas like Lost Sectors, and yes, there are public events called World Events, but what makes it all different and special is not what you're doing, but how you go about doing it. The only thing that unifies each Javelin type is their ability to fly, but their speed, duration, and maneuverability while doing so all varies between each of them. For example, the Ranger is more agile in the air than the Colossus and can remain in the air for longer. However, the Colossus has more health and its weapons hit like a bus. There's a lot more depth to the combat in Anthem than in Destiny for sure, if you're going to make the comparison like many people will. The flight mechanic also has an overheat function, where if you fly or hover for too long, you will overheat and fall flat on your face. While in the air, you are basically immune to enemy types that are primarily melee-based, which includes much of the wildlife that lives on not sure what the planet is called yet, so let's just go with Odessa for now. Not only that, but you have other hostile javelins that you may come across, such as Storms and Rangers. They do have different names than this to keep things organized, but trust me, these guys hurt. Some of the footage I had was me trying to fight a Storm for about 10 minutes on my own. Of course, in the demo, we were only allowed to access the lower level weapons and gear, and you could only reach the maximum level of 15. So these enemies were difficult to take on your own. They were possible. However, it took an immense amount of bullets and time in order for me to deal with them on my own. So don't expect everything to be a cakewalk in this world either. There are enemies that are smaller fry compared to the bigger bads that you'll be fighting, of course, but it's the bigger guys that you'll want to try to focus on. In some bits of the gameplay that I am showing here, you may have seen some enemies that have yellow health bars. Much like enemies that have them in Destiny, these guys are tougher to take down than the regular red health enemy, but they're a lot spongier than their Destiny counterparts. Which brings me to the main and only gripe that I had with Anthem when I played it, and that was the strength of some enemy types. A good example is the Hunter. The Hunter being a Scar enemy that flies up and barrages you with a tidal wave of bullets. Not only does this guy have a lot of health, but it does a lot of damage in a short period of time. And there wasn't just one of these guys either. There's at least 5 of them in the stronghold in each section where the Scar are involved. While this is a bit of an issue, it did bring out one of the more unique parts of Anthem's combat system, the combo system. Now, I am not talking about the Street Fighter brand of combos. I'm talking about how when you attack someone with a certain kind of elemental damage, such as ice or lightning, and a buddy attacks with a different kind of element, it does immense amounts of damage to enemies affected by it. These combos, depending on the abilities and javelin that you have, are all different. However, what is important to say here is that there is a distinct difference between status effects, combo primers, and combo detonators. Combo primers are abilities that set up enemies for combos. You can tell when an enemy is primed for a combo when they have a little gray hexagon over their head. Upon hitting that enemy with a detonator, immense amounts of damage are caused to the enemy who was primed for the combo. If you still don't quite get it, think of it like this. You and your 3 buddies are playing a game of Uno. One of the 3 of you puts down a card. You play a +2. And your friend to your right, who has more cards, plays their +2, which gives a +4 to the enemy who only has 1 card. As I have already said before, Anthem's combat is incredibly customizable from just the open demo that we got. For a perfect example, let's take a look at the Ranger. The Ranger, to start, has a wrist rocket and a frag grenade, but since I had been playing for a while, I was able to swap his launcher out for a laser beam. These abilities are customizable for every javelin, and each has access to different things, each having their own tiers and their own power levels. The same can be said for the weapons, which range from close-range automatic rifles to sniper rifles with explosive bullets. Keep in mind, though, that not all weapons can be used with all javelins. Weapons like grenade launchers and autocannons can only be used by the Colossus, for example. Now that we have covered most of the bases, let's work with the leveling system for a little bit. Each piece of gear has its own level and tier upon being equipped that applies it to an overall strength level. This level, based on what I already know from Destiny, will influence the different kind of activities that you will have access to, in addition to doing more overall damage to your enemies that you will come across in the game. Now, on to that other activity that I've been avoiding talking about since the start of this video, the Stronghold. Strongholds, you can look at them like a mix between strikes and raids from the Destiny games. These are match-made activities consisting of 4 people that can take up to half an hour to complete. Sounds similar, right? But here's the big difference. At each checkpoint, there is a chest that spawns and gives you loot as you go through. After going through these checkpoints, you end up getting to the final boss of the Stronghold. The boss that we had fought in this Stronghold wasn't too difficult to beat, but at the same time, this is not something that you can do on your own, which is a nice change of pace. So that's about it. I would like to thank you guys for staying to the end and anticipate more Anthem gameplay / videos from me in the future. As I said at the very beginning, this is a game that I've been looking forward to for a long time. Expect a lot more from me in the future. I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.